13 colonies. Anybody participate in 13 colonies ever before? It's a lot of fun.
I got 4 today.
Did you really? Already. All right. So the 13 colony special event is a really cool event that basically is all about celebrating amateur radio and the U.S. independence. It starts July 1st, 1300 UTC, and goes all the way through July 8th at 4 p.m. 0400 UTC rather. Founded in 2009 by Ken W.U.2US. The whole idea of the 13 colonies is to connect with all 13 original U.S. colonies and bonus stations. And it really is a super fun event that's really easy to take part in. It's a very competitive, fast and furious contest that goes for a week. You can really get into it and really work hard to get through to it, or you can just kind of let it go and pick your way through. I've had super frustrating times that work to get a contact and then come back a day later and get forward. Just, it's a really awesome event. But the history of it started with 13 operators that were the original 13 colonies when he had the idea. And now it's over 350 plus volunteers, ranging from setting up field stations to organizing everything with the logging, the QSL cards and everything that goes with that. To give you an idea what kind of event that it is, in 2024, 292,426 contacts for the event. That for 13 stations, 16 technically, but 2024 K2J, that's the North Carolina station, logged 30,000 contacts in 7 days. That is an amazing number of contacts of radio waves flying through the air. K2US has a tribute certificate issued honoring them forever to go down in history for that. So the 13 colony call signs, you'll hear them all over the place, K2A through K2M. And so you'll hear them out there, Kilo 2 America or Kilo 2 Bravo, you know, Kilo 2 Charlie, QRZ. And you'll hear them all over the place. And we'll talk in a little bit about spotting and some ways to be able to find them easier and find them in a better way to be able to hunt for them easier. But so there's the Kilo 2 Alpha through Kilo 2 Mike, and then the bonus stations, William Penn, GB13, and then TM13. So Pennsylvania, the UK, and France. The first year that I ever did this, I was only able to get the bonus stations through D-Star. Jeff had set my D74 up to be able to do D-Star, and I didn't do it through the repeater. I was able to do it through my computer. And I got the clean sweep and the bonuses through the only way I was able to get it, because I had my home station, but it wasn't a fancy, impressive one. And I just didn't have the antennas to get to France. Actually, you know what? I was attacked. That's what it was. I think I was no, what the heck was it? But I ended up having to use D-Star to get it, and it works flawlessly. So certificate's awarded for even a single contact. You can fill out all of the information. I'm going to show you the log sheet in a minute, and you can get the certificate for your contacts, even if it's only 1 or 2. You don't have to have the clean sweep. You don't have to have all the bonus stations. You can just get a few contacts and submit it and pay the $5, which we'll talk about in a minute, and get your certificate for it, even if you don't get a clean sweep and the bonus stations. When we talk about how much this has grown, you know, you talk about the first ever time was just like our field day. It was literally very similar to our field day. They had 13 different operators in the different places set up, and they played field radio. Some of them operated from their home stations, but to be able to get all different antennas up to be able to work all the different locations, they set up a lot of field stations. Now there's between 350 to 500 volunteers coordinating all the different logistics from food and different antennas and different stations that are used. They rent man lifts and put rotators on top of, like, they go all out to make sure that this event can be worked by everybody all over the world. Operators hand off pileups to maintain coverage, and I'm telling you what, you want to talk about a pileup that you've ever heard. If you've never worked an HF pileup, I've never heard a pileup other than some of the what do they call the expeditions. I've never heard pileups on the air like you hear with 13 colonies. It is wild, and you'll hear like the epitome of make you mad, the worst operators that you could ever see that makes you mad because they're an embarrassment for our hobby. You know, they're throwing their call out way late when they're already talking, not waiting for the operator to call QRZ or any of that. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes about ways to bust through pile up and how to time all that. But this year, a really cool thing that if you are into Parks on the Air, there's going to be 15 Parks on the Air operators dedicated just to the 13 Colonies operations. And they're going to be all over North Carolina primarily. But that being said, doesn't mean that you won't get some pop-up POTA operators that are call stations also. And we're going to talk about how to find them on DX spots and some of the other things, as well as just in general, the 13 Colonies site is going to have some great information. But so the station's activating from the historic battlefields across North Carolina, Moores Creek, the USS North Carolina, Ballhead Island. And you can work them in all different modes, different bands. So if you get a Parks on the Air contact, it's no different than field day. You can hit that same person. If they have 2 or 3 other people set up, you might see them on the Parks on the Air spotting page or on the DX spotting page. You may have, K2J on 20, 40, 75, and 12. Like they may be all over the place, and you can work them in all those different bands if you want to work towards your worked all states or any of that sort of thing. The specific POTA locations, if you are working to work on your Parks on the Air hunting grounds, these are the actual park numbers. I don't know what the Moores Creek one was. I was running really, really late today for a meeting. And I put this together and finished it up very late. So US 6831, that's a tough one. The North Carolina Battleship, because you have to get all kinds of permits and everything to work it. So that's a really cool one that'll be neat to be able to get. That's going to be on the air for the entirety of the 13 Colonies. So that's a pretty cool opportunity. If you are a Parks on the Air hunter, that's a really neat opportunity. So envision 13 operating stations, and there may be 2 or 3 different ones for say North Carolina or for Philly or for those places, but they may be on different bands. And you've got 30,000 contacts just in that one state. So imagine how many are across all of the different events altogether. The best way to find them is the 13 Colonies Facebook page. If you don't have access to Facebook, you choose not to use it. DX Summit is awesome. If you're not familiar with DX Summit, I had originally planned on having a link in here and was going to pull it up if we were going to be at the Doer, because I had an antenna all ready to go and we were going to fire it up and be able to hear some of the calling stations, and we were going to try to bust the pile up after the meeting, but just didn't work out because we're here. But DX Summit's awesome because you can put a filter in there. Like once you start hammering down through them on your log and you're looking for that last one and you're tuning across, the operator like me, I'm the PhD, push your dummy operator. I'm looking at my waterfall, kind of looking for a crazy pile up, and then I listen, and sure enough, it's K2J again, and I've already heard him 9 times, but I'm looking for, Kilo 2 Bravo. I can go into DX Summits, and in the top, when you use a little filter icon, I can put right in there K2B and what bands I'm looking for, and it will alert me when they're on the air, when somebody else sees them and spots them. So that's a huge, huge benefit for being able to find these stations that are out there to be able to get your clean sweep. Ham Alert works the same. I've never used it. Does anybody have experience with Ham Alert in here that can shed some light on that, either now or later? I've never used it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to look it up this year.
I tried it. The calls I put in, it never hit.
Never came up. Yeah. It may not be as widely used, but they're pushing it really hard this year. So I have a feeling maybe that's some sort of affiliation, or it may get more popular after this event.
You can set it to ping you with a text.
Oh, really?
The station pops up that you want to work. So I can wake you up in the middle of the night if you have it set.
There you go. I'm sorry I didn't see you raise your hand that you knew something about it. I was looking this way and I missed you, Doc. Sorry about that. That's cool. So did you hear what he said? You can set an alert to ping you when the station's on the air. That's really neat. We'll have to do a presentation on just that sort of thing. But and operators do spot themselves publicly. It's not a secret. They want to have the pileups. They want to get people. It's not like some of the summits on the air when they only want to get a few contacts to activate it and then get the heck out of there. Their whole goal is to make as many contacts as possible and to get as many call logs submitted, because ultimately it's a not-for-profit, but you do pay $5 for the certificate, which we'll get to in a minute. So DX Summit has those filters to find all the states. And honestly, if you look at the spotting pages, if you look at one of the things that I did a couple of years ago when I didn't have great cell service to be able to pull up, because I was doing a Parks on the Air activation and hunt 13 Colonies, is I pulled up FT8. And I could see the stations that were calling on FT8, so I knew they were on the air in other bands. So there's other ways to get creative to hunt for them You know, chances are if they were on digital on 40, they were probably on voice, on phone on 40 also, and sure enough, they were. I just had to find them. But just be really, really patient with trying to get through because you will find that. David, would you say you got 4 this afternoon?
4, but yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of kilowatts there.
Yeah.
Trying to beat it to get it.
Yeah.
It takes patience.
There's times that you'll have, I'm not kidding you, the pileup will run for 5 seconds, 10 seconds of people throwing out their calls, hoping to have somebody pick one through. So
Actually, the interesting story, the first one, I have a sked on weekday mornings on 7181. So I signed off of that and I had the radio on and I heard some. So I tuned down to 7180 and it was.
no kidding.
One of the.
That's cool. That's a winner. So, you know, anybody that's operated field day especially is really good at this, understanding an operator's rhythm and being able to figure that out, especially if you've worked the expeditions or that sort of thing. Just understanding how that operator works. And when I've had some pretty big pileups for parks on the air stations, because I've activated a 2 parks as the first time ever. And you want to talk about a pileup, when you get that spotted, it's crazy the way that they pile up. And I am very adamant about calling QRZ after the end of a contact or any station anywhere or something like that. There's a lot of stations that don't. There's a lot of people that won't wait for it and they just start throwing out calls and hammering on top of the person trying to even call up. You know, for instance, he might say, Kilo 2 Bravo for 13 colonies on 14.233 QRZ. And, you know, he may do that 4 or 5 times in a row. And then the next time he may only say Kilo 2 Bravo QRZ or just 13 colonies, but listen for a while. It's so easy for us to forget, you know, some of the things that we were taught when we took our test is listen, transmit. And I'm the biggest criminal in that, especially at field day. You're dialing along and you hear somebody say QRZ and you throw your call out and they grab you and you're like, crap, I got no idea who I'm talking to. Right? We've all told me that happened so many times this weekend as we were just excited to grab a contact, but I didn't have it all filled out. Like usually we're sitting there and we're hunting and we hear who it is and we would put in who they are and all that. Be patient because you'll be surprised. You'll get the opportunity. Dave's got his hand raised.
The other thing, maybe you'll get to it, is don't tell them your life story.
Yeah, well, keep it short and sweet. There's 30,000 people trying to make contact with that station over the course of this event. Just get on and get off. You know, on occasion, it's good to say, you know, you made a great trip to Central New York so that other people can know what you're getting for propagation. That's huge. I've learned a lot about that. Kilo 2 Bravo, thanks so much for the 5.9, 100 watts in a wire here from Central New York for anybody that cares. Because now you know, hey, I hit that person from here. Maybe I'll turn my beam to hear them better. Or, you know, I do stand a chance with 100 watts in a wire from here. Or, you know what, when they called for QRP, we'll talk about that in a second, but they called for QRP and I turned myself down to 20 so I could jump in and still got the contact. But it's worth saying that only to try to help other people know maybe I should switch to a different antenna, or I'm only running a vertical and I'm never going to get into this guy because there's a huge pile up and everybody's running wires or whatever. But accent words are huge for busting pileups. We do that a lot at field day and it works really, really, really well. But for me, when I'm trying to get through a pileup with my call for something like this, I'm W2 GPR, I say Whiskey 2 Golf Papa Romeo or something like that, and they'll hear that and they'll grab you first thing. Or I'll just say Papa Romeo, and they'll hear that as compared to all the rest of the stuff. And you'd be surprised how well that works to bust a pileup. I might say the reason that I have W2 GPR is when I was really excited about Parks on the Air, W2 GPR, and I could say, want to go play radio, QRZ. And it flowed. And so many people identified me with that when I would start to get, like at my first or second kilo that I got, people knew who I was. They would know who you are. They'd look you up. And so many people would say, hey, why don't you go play radio? Give Gus a pet for me. Like they looked you up and they know who you were. So it was really cool to be able to build that rapport with people over the air. But using those accent words was huge. We did it so much during field day and how well that works to say, Alpha Foxtrot 2 America, and I would do that, and they'd jump on you first thing. You know, it's not I'm not saying be ridiculously rude and not polite, but that really does work. Call during pauses or when asked for specific groups, they will regularly ask for veterans, QRP stations, or portable stations. Last year, I had the races trailer at home getting cleaned up from field day, and I did the entire 13 Colonies event in about 6 hours, all from the trailer in my backyard. I think there was 1 or 2 stations that I missed, and I had to grab their bonus stations that I got the next day, but I did it all portable in my backyard with my G5 RV and a 130-foot end bed, switching back and forth between them, but it was all done portable. And that served me very well, because regularly stations would say, all right, guys, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna go through numbered bands, and they're gonna call for 1 stations, go ahead. And they may take 10, 2 stations, go ahead. And you can see that in the DX Summit, or you can know that I can go hunt something for a while and I'm gonna come back and look for them, and they might be on, they might be on 1s again, so I'm gonna hang out because I'm on 2. So that's some of the other ways that they'll do it. They definitely do QRP stations, and there's nothing that says you have to be run a dedicated QRP machine. Just turn it down. Just turn it down to 10. I mean, they technically, right, 10 watts. So what's QRP officially legally? 5.
Sidebands.
Yeah. 10 watts according to the FCC is QRP, but a QRP machine, most of them out there 5, 10 watts. But so, lower power transmissions also, sometimes you'll be surprised how many times these guys are blasting a 1.7 gigawatts doing 88 miles an hour with their time machine, and they're just splattering all over the place. And as soon as that settles down a little bit, there's times that they purposely wait for a quiet station. So don't be afraid to go a little bit quiet and go a little bit down on power and say QRP, and you might get picked up quicker than that too.
Maybe
Yeah.
another comment. This isn't maybe another story, but good audio processing goes a long way.
Yep.
Sometimes more than the power.
Yeah, so if you can, if you can be heard and you're nice and clear and you're not splattering all over the place, look at your ALC on your rig, see how much your automatic level control is compressing everything that's going on. If your compressor, if your rig is working so hard to keep everything sounding nice, you might sound like crap on the other end of it. So look at how your audio settings are there. It's a great point, David. If you sound clean and you sound like a broadcast station, there's a lot of complaints all over Facebook about the home stations and how that's ruined field day. And you could hear them. Like, there were a few stations during field day that were Delta operators that were operating from home and they never left. And they're running 500 watts in a beam, and they sounded like Paul Harvey. I'm like, and when it sounded, I fell in love with this one guy. I didn't want to turn the station. He just had this amazing sounding voice with a great sounding station, ran pileups really well because he was so clean. And if you've never run the transmitting end of a pileup, he would, like, say we were doing a Parks on the Air or whatever, he would hear W2GPR, AF2A, W2IFB. He'd say 2A and IFB, hang on, I'll be right back. And then he'd grab a station and he'd jot that down. And he'd come back, hey, IFB, you still there? Appreciate you hanging out. I'll be right with you, AF2A. And just smooth and clean, and that quality of that audio made everything flow. But a lot of what you do has a lot to do with your antenna. I run mostly wires. I've tried verticals all over the place, and thank goodness got one of them off of my property before I blew it up. So I've tried a 6B TV. I've got every kind of Wolf River coil and super antenna and hustlers, and you name it. I've tried them, and I can never get crap for results. Maybe it's because of where I live. I cannot get anything out of a vertical but noise and frustration. I've never done well with them. I just can't seem to get them to work, but my wires are unbelievable. I've got worked all stakes 4 or 5 different ways with nothing more than 100 watts in a wire. My favorite transmitting antenna is that antenna right there. It's a 130-foot end fed. My antennas, they're actually running a 30% off sale on that antenna right now. It is really awesome. And when I say at the very bottom, don't get analysis paralysis, it is meant to be run, 35 feet off the ground, 20 feet off the ground, whatever you're, depending on how you're going to use it with the waves. And we can have that argument all day long, but I'm here to tell you, if nothing else, about me being a potty mouth and being a touch hole, is that I just throw crap in the air, and if it works, great. because I have seen too many times that we just chose not to do something because it wasn't perfect. And I can tell you that after we left Lemoyne for our races demonstration, I really trust so much of the knowledge in this group because, as I said, I'm a PhD operator. I'm a push here dummy operator. I don't know what I don't know about most of this crap. I get on the air, and if it works, great. And if the magic smoke doesn't come out of my machine, that's an even better grade. And if I make some contacts, that's 10 times more great. And that antenna is running northeast, and the transmitter, the transformer end is hanging over my railing. It's got a piece of coax in it that's been chewed on by mice and everything else. When I pee off the porch, Gus smells it and he pees on it. And it's hanging off the ground, down over a bank, into a tree with three tree branches leaning on it. And every time I transmit on that antenna, somebody goes, "Man, you sound great. That's a great trip from driving to New York." Because it just plain works. Don't not put something up and use it because the books and all of the amazing knowledge says to do it. I took an antenna that is supposed to be tied however many feet off the ground and tighten this and that, and I trust that knowledge, and it probably works a hell of a lot better that way. But I'm telling you, I've got almost 3,000 confirmed contacts from playing radio in the woods for POTA, and all I do is hoist the middle of it up in the air with a piece of parachute cord that I've hid in the tree. The transformer lays on the ground. The terminated end, I wrap around a stick or I set a rock on it and I go, and I don't spot myself most of the time because I don't have service where I like to play radio, and I just start calling and I immediately get contacts and I have no problem doing it. Is it perfect? No, but I can tell you that I went and played radio regardless if it said it was perfect or not. So don't let the knowledge get you down. Go play radio. So that right there is what that NFET does, completely wrong for what it should be. Those are my spots. My FT8 spots and my whisper spots are actually even more impressive. That's 100 watts. That antenna shouldn't work the way that it's strung. And that's what it does all day, every day, no problem. And I've got the logbooks to prove. Well, you can look at the red dots. Those red dots are all confirmed contacts on FT8, and then it's in mixed mode, so there's a bunch of other stuff there too. So what are the other antennas that I use? Because we got to remember that this is the 13 colonies. Where's the 13 colonies? It's the East Coast, right? So it doesn't do you any good to be doing all this happy horse crap over here until we're trying to get the bonus stations, right? We're trying to get France, we're trying to get Great Britain. That's great for this. But I also pretty much need to be talking just up and down the East Coast. So I do run an NBIS antenna. I tried really hard to run a different antenna as an NBIS antenna. I tried running my 75-foot, 70 and change, the Chameleon MCOM 3 portable as more of a flat top, as an L. I tried all kinds of different stuff. I finally got frustrated enough that I just bought a dedicated NBIS antenna. I've used it in quite a few places. It serves me very well. And those are the spots from that NBIS antenna. It's a little bit long because I think I set it up a little bit tall. I always get a little overzealous and push it up in the air a little bit more than I need to. I need to remember that the lower is better for that sort of thing, but my mind is so shallow and stupid when it comes to antenna height is might, and I always set an NBIS antenna up too high. So this year specifically, it's the same antenna we had at field day on that 20-foot push-up pole. I put a red marker on it that said, "Here, dumbass," and I wrote it right on the side of my pole, and that's where it's gonna stay. So I'm looking for about 12 feet for this whole setup, and I cleared up spot in my yard specifically to run that antenna. And I'm gonna try to do as much of it as I can with that. But one of the things that I do with this is I almost always transmit out of that 130-foot NFED, but this NBIS antenna and my G5RV is a much quieter listening antenna. So like we were doing at field day, we would hear a bunch of stuff going on, and you could quite hear and the fading going up and down, and I would listen. Are you waving at me for time? And I'd listen, and all of a sudden it was, they're way off the band or a bunch of noise. And I'd switch really quick, and I have my radio tuned to the one antenna that I'm going to transmit on all the time, but I'd be listening over here and listening over here, listening over here. And I'd jump over and I transmit on the one antenna. So I plan on doing that this year. Tomorrow, I'm only working half a day. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna put up that endless antenna. I'm gonna run it pretty low. And, I'm gonna throw this out there. Anybody that wants to come plug into my antennas at my house, you're welcome to. Sit right on the back porch, play with Gus, jump in the pool, and you're welcome to bring your radio and plug right into 3 different antennas. They're gonna be terminated right at my porch, because I'm gonna do it portable this year. It's just fun to play. I like to play radio outside. But you're welcome to do that. Just coordinate with me and you're welcome to, and if you don't have a radio and you wanna try it, let me know and I'll put my 710 out there for you to be done. So that Edvis running a little bit high between 15 and 20 feet is actually kind of a happy medium for everything all the way around, because these are spots that we did after that Lemoyne drill. I was really curious and we weren't getting what I was happy with. So I went right home and I was picking David's brain about, trying this and trying that. And it was one of the first times that I really spent any time with Whisper, and it worked really, really well. So I went a little bit high. I think I asked you what was the happy spot, right? You told me to get a little bit higher would be give me a little bit more range, a little bit lower would be, and David was 1,000% right. Like how I had the legs a little bit, it gave me that much more. And in the back of my head, I thinking when I saw those pop up, I'm like, man, that's gonna be perfect for 13 colonies in a month. And it was, and it will be.
What's the magnetic orientation?
For this, it was the longer legs, which I assume were the 40-meter leg, or the 40-meter legs were running east-west and the 20s were running north-south. So again, that doesn't make sense for what it should be doing to have happiness, but that's how it laid nicely in my yard. And the 120-meter leg, I had to actually have up on the bank a little bit. It wasn't even down like the rest of them were. So the one leg was a little bit high, almost like a flat top, just not really a sloper, but it wasn't great. But look at that. So don't read the manual. And all I want you to take away from this is just freaking do it. Because if I had read that manual and saw that I couldn't set that antenna up right and I wasn't the heathen that I am, I might not have gotten on the air. But I'm telling you, it works. So that G5 RV, I bought it from Dan Lumna. First G5 RV I ever ran, and holy crap, I was talking to Doug about it. He was telling me the amazing success that Doug Bolbot's got with it. I couldn't agree with more. Like, what a great antenna. The quietest listening antenna that I've got. But for this particular event, I don't think it's going to do crap, because I think maybe if I turn things way down, I honestly don't know. I had never really done a ton of spotting with my G5 RV. It just works so well everywhere that I want to be, except for those, the works and the 12s and the 18s. But just a great antenna. I listen on that one a lot, and then I transmit on that 130. Or in this particular event, I'm going to be transmitting on that Edvis antenna. So what you're going to do is, if you Google search ham radio 13 colonies or 13 colonies special event or anything, and you go right to their page, this is going to be one of the first things that you see. And you can download it there, or you can actually fill it right there and then print it filled. I download it and I do all my chicken scratch crap, and then I go back and then I fill it all out. But pretty straightforward, K2A's New York, Kilo 2 Bravos, Virginia, Charlie's Rhode Island, Delta's Connecticut, Echo's Delaware, Foxtrot is Maryland, G is Georgia, Hotels Massachusetts, Ida is New Jersey, Juliet's North Carolina, Kilo is New Hampshire. That was the other cool thing. I needed New Hampshire and Rhode Island for my worked all states the first time I ever did this, and I could never get them. For anybody that remembered the first field day I did with y'all, I begged and begged and begged the guy that I worked in Rhode Island, will you please hang out and work me with my personal call sign? Please, I need Rhode Island so bad. And the son of a gun never confirmed it. But I was able to get it with 13 colonies. Some of these states, like Ohio's got 17,422 operators per square foot, right? You look at Ohio, and there's more ham radio operators in Ohio than there are people in New York City. But Rhode Island and Delaware, I think there's only 3 ham operators, and 2 of them are silent keys. It's like you can't ever make a contact in some of those states. It's terrible. And this is a great opportunity to do so. So New Hampshire, South Carolina, and then that K2M, Pennsylvania. And then there's the 3 bonus stations, William Penn, GB13, and TM13. So basically, you write the date down, the UTC time. I use the UTC app right on my phone, or I'll take, I actually just changed the time on my phone to UTC, but there's a ton of different apps. The QTH app is a really great one, because it'll tell you, I'm sure Kevin will vouch for that QTH one's awesome for your spots, for your your grid squares. That's what I use it for when I'm driving down the road and all of a sudden my radio says, and I hear the ISS, I'm like, holy crap, where am I? And I can open that app and it tells me exactly what grid square I'm in, and it tells me the Zulu time. So I screenshot that, and then I try to make a satellite contact and not drive in the ditch. But, so your UTC time, the frequency that you were there, your report, signal report, and then what mode you were. Super easy. So once you get this done, you fill this all out and you send it in with $5, and they send you back a really cool little certificate. This is the one that's going to be from this year, and they'll have the stations that you worked will be printed on it, and it comes with your call sign written. It's a really neat little certificate. They're super good. I mean, they're nice quality. It's not just a crappy printed piece of paper. Like, they really do a great job with this special event. So the clean sweep is all of the stations, and then the clean sweep plus bonuses are the William Penn, the TM13, and the GB13. And it'll be on there if it's on mixed mode, or if it was done in just SSB. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure because I'm a bum and I didn't do enough research for this presentation, but I think if you do it all on the 4th of July, that's what that 4th of July endorsement thing there is. But I'm not 100% sure. I'm literally just pulling that out of my butt right now. But I'm pretty sure that's what that is, because I have heard talk of that last year. So to get the certificate, super easy. Download, print out that log, send $5 donation. But what it says right down there is if you don't have the $5, just send the stuff and they're going to send it to you. And because of that, kind of like M3FJP, every time they have an update, I Venmo them $10, or I PayPal them rather, because they're just awesome. You buy once and they just keep giving you stuff. These guys are amazing. I know, I've heard people on the air say, oh, I'm not sending my login. It's a pain in the butt to get to the post office and this and that. I get it. Every single time I send this in, I throw a $20 bill in it. It's just, they're an amazing organization. It's a lot of fun. But all you got to do is throw that in there. You should throw a check in there. Make sure if you do put a check in there that you put on there Tony Jones, or what is it? It's specifically, award manager, because if you just put him on there, they won't let him deposit it as one other account to pay in the butt. So there was a Facebook post like 2 years ago about how much money sat in this one account because it didn't say award man, and they like wouldn't let it transfer it over. You had to sit on it for like 90 days or something and then move it. It was a pain in the butt. You know about banking. You probably shaking your head. So it was a pain in the butt. So, but if you put that all in there, self-addressed stamp, they send you the nice big manila envelope, and you can be all excited like the little kid that, it's a major award when it comes in the mail. So it's pretty neat. It is not for profit, but there is definitely a lot of stuff there. So if you do want QSL cards from the 13 colonies, there is information on the original webpage. Again, just Google search 13, ham radio 13 colonies. And when you look in the upper left-hand corner, if I remember correctly, you can drag it down and you click on it and it'll take you right to the QRZ page for those. So you can whack that log of contact. Once they confirm it, you can send all the information. It's all right there on that page, how to get a QSL card from each station. These are the QSL cards from last year. I don't know. I just stole this. This is Google search QSL card 13 colleges first thing it came up. So it's that's what the QSL cards look like. That year they did anyway. And they do have a bunch of, I know Kilo 2 Delta, they had like 5 different cards based on when during the contest that it was. So you may even work a station a couple different times, or if you see on the social media page a different card and you want it, work them. It's kind of cool. That's it. Jules.
Yeah. QSL cards, do they say 13 colonies on it?
In some place they do, yeah. So I'm seeing, like this one said 4th of July, original 13 colonies, 13 colonies, 13 colonies special event, 2015, that looks like. Yeah, I'm seeing 13 colonies in all these ones, Jules, but you're the QSL card queen. I've seen that stack you've got, or I've seen part of it anyway. The one time I've been upstairs. Yeah. So
I gotta go through the United States one to see if we have any sort of.
So it's pretty cool, but
thank you.
Yeah, that's it really. But it's a lot of fun. It's a quick, easy contest that you can blast straight through in a couple cities. Like I said, I fired up the grill while I was warming up, waiting to throw some meat on it, throwing the ball for Gus, and grabbed a station or two. And then you'd listen for another one, I'd see it spotted, and it's like, holy crap, that pilot's going on forever and ever and ever. And then I think I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom. I'm like, let's go see what's going on. And I went down, and sure enough, there was nobody there. And they were spotted, and I threw up the call. I said, 13 counties, it's W2GPR, Drive New York. Please tell me you're awake. And he goes, holy cow, somebody to talk to. And he was there. So honestly, don't just middle of the night, whatever, set an alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning and look. But there's a million ways to do it, and it's just a really, really, really fun, quick little event. It's a good, clean fun. So, are you all gonna anybody that does it every year that's looking forward to it, or are David's obviously already done? Kevin's I'm talking about it. Yeah, it's a cool one. Did I do it justice, Kevin? Is that a pretty good rundown of it? You want to add anything from the years that you've done it?
I don't really agree with the vertical antenna thing.
Yeah, you do better with the vertical.
Well, I like it.
Yeah.
But I would say like Parks on the Air, it's a really good way to learn how the bands work.
Yeah,
Generally, all these stations are too close for 10 meters and up. So, if you're trying to work New York, Pennsylvania, 40 meters at night, it's gonna be your friend.
yeah, yeah.
Just plan the bands, look for them on the X Summit, that's how I normally do it. Jump on it when you can. It's
Yeah.
not the pile up or not.
Oh, the pileups are wild. Anybody else that doesn't want to add anything to it? David, was there crazy pileups today when you were running, or not too bad?
Yeah, mostly crazy. And,
Yeah.
You know, there's just pandemonium and you throw out your call and you do it again and again and
Yeah.
again. Yeah, they came back to me.
Yeah, like, holy cow, they hurt me. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. It feels like you're tossing a ping pong ball in a swimming pool full of rubber duckies, and you're just hoping that you bounce off the right one. It is wild.
Did they do a split frequency up, down?
They do, I worked Great Britain last year, was running split a lot, or one of them was, and that was my first ever split contact. I had never done it. I had to like figure it out on the fly how to do it. And I saw it on the DX summits.
That works.
It was great. It was the first time it wasn't the first time I ever made that way with that radio. It was when I had just gotten the 710. It was right after field day. So I was comfortable with the radio, but I had never run it split. It was super easy to do, and it worked well, and we got it. What was funny was how many people that didn't know they were running split, and they're just sitting there hammering, and somebody keep going, they're running split, they're 10 up, they're 5 up, they're 3 or whatever, and over and over. Will you explain that to everybody? So when they say we're running a split 10 up,
No, sometimes they'll just say up. They'll
Okay.
get your call
and
they'll
you
say
gotta
up.
find them.
But you're guessing, they may be 1 or 2 up, or they may be 5 or
No,
maybe
no, but
10 up.
you listen to who is calling.
Oh, yeah, you can tell where the pile up is.
You see where the pileup is.
So you transmit on one frequency and you listen on another. That's what,
So when they say 10 up, that'd be 10 kilohertz up from where you're hearing them right now is where you would transmit.
transmit.
So it's a good way to be able to hear when they're calling and still not get everything stomped on, and for them to be able to pick things out better. But any plans for POTA for 13 colonies? I know my boss, the director, he's planning on going out and trying to play radio and get some of those extra parks and activate a park. I mean, because that's a great way to be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? There's 1,000 people on the air that are playing POTA and hunting this, so he's gonna try to get a bunch of both. What do you got, Simon?
I was going to say, you guys do list of ways to break into dial-ups. My favorite magic words are park to park.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, you can bust through a pile up with a park to park with a QRP all day, every day, so.
So, Jamie, I'm a little confused. How does photo work on 13 holidays?
Because there's gonna be a bunch of 13 colony stations that are working as.
Okay, so
They're,
you
yeah,
have to.
that list from North Carolina, but there's also other states that are doing it. So all those stations that I had listed there, those are POTA stations and 13 colony stations. Those ones were just in North Carolina, because North Carolina was the only state that advertised them. But according to the Facebook page, there's quite a few other states that people, instead of operating from their homes, said, hey, we're gonna go operate in the local park instead. So that's a pretty good chance to get a park that you may not have had, or to.
So I assume if you look up 1x1 calls on the photo spot, that.
Yep. Yeah, you're gonna see them on the Parks on the Air spot page or DX Summits or any of that stuff. So what do you got, Kurt?
So to claim the state, you only need 1 contact on.
Correct. Yep. So if you wanted to fill this out and you wanted to do it a couple different ways, you could, I don't care. I'm band hopping all over the place, but some people submit it 3 different ways. Some people only do it with SSB, some people only do it with code, some people only do it with digital. Because there's operators in all different modes. They're running FT8, they're running CW. I don't know about RIDI. I honestly don't know about that, but I know FT8 is there. I know CW is there, and I know that's, you know, sideband is obviously there. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.